Things in Memphis are not looking great. There's just no two ways about it. Tensions have been rising between Ja Morant and the organization quite a bit over the last few years, and it felt like this season was going to be the year that makes or breaks that partnership long term, and so far it is breaking. Last season, several reports indicated that Ja Morant hated the system that Taylor Jenkins was running, and then Jenkins ended up getting fired out of the blue, despite the team having a solid record at the time. Under new coach Tuomas Isalo, we're still getting reports about Ja Morant being unhappy in his role, and with the Grizzlies coming out of the gate with a losing record, and Morant himself playing pretty inconsistently game to game, trade rumors have once again started to heat up, especially after he just got suspended for conduct detrimental to the team, and that is exactly what Bleacher Report addressed in a recent article. In this article, they proposed 4 trades featuring Ja Morant that they believe could all be realistic deals that could go down this season. So as always, we'll be reviewing each one, analyzing whether or not the trade makes sense, why or why not the team involved would want to go through with it, and who would benefit the most from it if it were to happen. Now with that being said, let's get started. The first proposal from the article is with the Atlanta Hawks, where the Hawks receive Ja Morant and a $6.6 million trade exception in exchange for Trae Young. At first glance, this one seems like one that would be written off immediately, but under the current context of each situation, it is, at minimum, worth it to hear them out. The premise of this deal is based around the fact that Trae Young is out injured for the next month, and they might not want to risk sinking over that time without him. Then on the flip side, if the Grizzlies have gotten to the point where they're willing to trade Morant, that pretty much means they've accepted that their current situation is not good enough, and would be willing to patiently wait for Trae Young to get healthy. While that's the idea behind it, I just don't think that it's a very good idea at all still. The Hawks did so much work this summer to retool the team specifically around Trae Young to give themselves a real shot at making a run in the Eastern Conference, and it would be pretty disrespectful to abandon him after years of Trae carrying their offense the first time the going got tough. Additionally, I can confidently say that I believe the Hawks are good enough to at least still stay afloat in Trae's absence over the next month, with this being a good time to let players like Jalen Johnson and Nickeil Alexander-Walker blossom more in a bigger role, plus Kristaps Porzingis is rounding into form, and the team overall has a much improved defense that, let's be honest, does get better without Trae Young on the floor. They're definitely not better overall without Trae Young, but they're no longer useless either. Memphis would obviously do this deal in a heartbeat because Trae is an established, better player, and has been for years now, and his playmaking prowess and clear edge as a shooter over Ja Morant would be a much better fit for what Memphis need from their point guard anyway. But the trade exception included in this offer just is not enough to make this one-for-one swap worth going through with for Atlanta, and in an Eastern Conference that is relatively weak overall, they're not desperately stressed about the upcoming stretch that they'll have to go through without Trae Young, so for me, this trade is a no-go. The next proposal from the article is with the Miami Heat, where the Heat receive Ja Morant in exchange for Tyler Hero and an $8.4 million trade exception. This is an offer that would have looked disrespectful a few years ago, but I hate to say it, I actually think this might be the most realistic swap we come across if it gets to that point where Morant is actually on the move. Plus, on BetOnline, the Miami Heat are the team with the second best odds to land Ja Morant in a potential trade, so if you agree with this idea, that's the place to go to take advantage of these odds, as you can currently get them at plus 500 on BetOnline. Now, as for the trade itself, it's going to make each team's fan base cringe a little bit, but it literally provides both sides with exactly what they are in need of. The Grizzlies desperately need more scoring on the wing after trading away Desmond Bane this summer, and overall, they're just the 24th ranked offense in the NBA at the time that I'm making this this video. The Grizzlies also have sufficient point guard play when they're at full strength, with Ty Jerome set to return from his injury soon, and Scottie Pippen Jr. proved last year during the playoffs he is a highly productive sixth-man point guard as well, who will be rehabbing his injury for another 2 months, but in the second half of this season should continue to take off. The Miami Heat, meanwhile, have been desperate to find themselves a franchise point guard for years, and with them hinting at the idea of finally being able and willing to dangle Tyler Hero in a trade offer, this may be the perfect opportunity for them to buy low on a talent like Ja Morant. The Heat are currently operating without a true point guard in their entire rotation, forcing combo guard Davion Mitchell to take the reins, and at full strength, Tyler Hero himself has had to play more point guard duties than he's comfortable with, so adding Morant to potentially rejuvenate his career down in South Beach, with a dominant defensive identity and the coaching of Eric Spoelstra to get the most out of him, could be a win-win scenario for both sides. Hero is more comfortable operating on and off the ball and provides far better spacing than Ja Morant, and in Miami, Morant gives the team an aggressive playmaking lead guard that can elevate an offense that already has firepower via Norman Powell, Bam Adebayo, Andrew Wiggins, and Jaime Jaquez. The next proposal from the article is with the Phoenix Suns, where the Suns receive Ja Morant in exchange for Jalen Green, a first-round pick, and a $5.9 million trade exception. The Suns are a team that may not get the attention in these Ja Morant sweepstakes that other groups will inevitably receive, but they're actually an incredibly intriguing fit if Morant were to be on the move. For one, the Suns are another team in desperate need of help at the point guard position, with Devin Booker currently being forced into that role despite being a more natural two-guard throughout his career, and Colin Gillespie being the only other real point guard in the rotation. The Suns are a team that imploded last year with a group that, in theory, should have been all in, and now the current state of the team is somewhere caught in limbo, not having committed to a rebuild, but also realistically not being good enough to make the playoffs in a loaded Western Conference. They're off to a 3-4 start to the year, ranking 20th on offense and 21st on defense, so below average on both ends. They have interesting win-now pieces, but not enough to make any noise that they seek, but at the same time, inserting an all-star point guard would make them pretty interesting. I actually think this is a move that Morant would love, as it reunites him with former teammate Dillon Brooks, who was written off from the Grizzlies as a bit of a scapegoat, but that was mostly by fans in the media. Morant never had any issues with Brooks himself. Where this trade breaks down for me, though, is the return for the Grizzlies, as I just do not believe any team in the NBA, let alone Memphis, view Jalen Green as the kind of asset that could return an all-star in a one-for-one swap. In today's league, if the player value isn't equal, then stars also demand several first-round picks, so the one extra first-rounder included here is not enough to bridge that gap. I know I said earlier that now is the time to buy low on Ja Morant, but this proposal takes that notion way too far, and even though I do think Phoenix is a landing spot that makes a lot of sense, I'm confident that they would need to include more in their offer if they wanted to be taken serious in trade talks here. And finally, the last proposal from the article is a three-teamer with the Kings and the Nets, where the Grizzlies receive Malik Monk, Keon Ellis, Dennis Schroeder, 2 protected first-round picks and a trade exception. The Kings receive Ja Morant, Gigi Jackson, Jalen Wilson, and 2 trade exceptions, and the Nets receive John Konchar, Dario Saric, 2 second-round picks, and some cash. This last one has a lot going on, but the main focus is on the Kings and the Grizzlies, while the Nets step in basically just to help make the money work and facilitate things. The Kings are yet another team currently trapped in dysfunction, with a roster blow-up potentially on the horizon. They're a team with a lot of offensive firepower on paper, but the reality is that they're ranked in the bottom 5 of the league on offense to start this season, and the product they put out on the court looks like a bunch of individuals playing to rack up statistics instead of playing together to try to win. Could a high-level point guard come in and help with this? Yeah, potentially. Do I think Ja Morant is that player for them specifically? No, I actually think this is a pretty terrible fit, and here's why. The last thing that Ja Morant needs is a place with dysfunctional losing culture. Morant in Sacramento would just lead to the same situation that he's in now. I see no world where Ja Morant can successfully play alongside DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, who are both ball-dominant, ball-stopping players looking to score the ball, especially when one of the biggest disconnects for Morant with the Grizzlies is his questionable usage and his disinterest in staying engaged when the ball is not in his hands. Morant is also, let's face it, not a very good perimeter shooter, and the Kings just don't have enough shooters to provide the type of spacing that can amplify his dominance as a slasher. The value alone is fine because I would love to see Malik Monk in a heightened role with more scoring freedoms. Keon Ellis is actually a gem of a two-way guard, and Dennis Schroeder is a helpful veteran to replace Morant at point guard, but in terms of whether or not this deal actually accomplishes what either team would be looking for, I feel as though it just delays the inevitable decline for each of them. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these proposed trades. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.